America and those listening around the world. It's time for the Conservative Syndicate with your host, John Matthews, self-ordained, politically incorrect, mad prophet of the airways. The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most knowledgeable activists and pundits today that together seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement with those seeking the truth regarding the similarities and differences between the religion of politics and the politics of religion.
We have put in place the toughest ethics laws and toughest transparency rules of any administration in history.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever.
Did you mislead Americans about the taxes, about keeping your plan, in order to get the bill passed?
No, I did not.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
For some reason, people keep on being surprised when I do what I said I was going to do. I'm doing it because I said I was going to do it, and I think it's the right thing to do.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
And now, your host, John Matthews.
Okay, hey, how we doing out there all across this great land of ours and around the world? It is that time. It's time for the Conservative Syndicate coming to you live right now. Out here from the old left coast. I'm a little bit dazed and confused today. It's hot out here. So it's I'm just dizzy a little bit. And glad to have you with us tonight. This is Wednesday, our third broadcast of the week, and we broadcast 3 days a week, Monday through Wednesday. So this will be our last broadcast for the week. But, of course, we always save the best for last. And we've got quite a lineup for you today, what we're going to do. We're going to spend some time talking about the ongoing campaign to remove all things perceived as being racist from, tear down our history, I guess, take away from our history, whatever. We're going to talk about it a little bit because, as I've said during the course of this week, there is an agenda behind this, and it's not about a flag, and it's not even about racism. There's a bigger agenda, and, the Democrats have mastered the ability of never letting a good crisis go to waste to try to accomplish what it is they want to do to fundamentally transform the United States of America. So we're going to talk about it from that angle. I'm going to put some pieces together for you today. And then we're going to talk about the trade agreement. The Senate came through for Obama yesterday, and just completely confirming what we've been saying on this show now for a number of years, actually, is that there is no longer a Republican Party, and there certainly is no longer any representation of American citizens who hold to the conservative ideology or even the platform of the Republican Party. Apparently, the people in the Republican Party today have either completely forgotten, never known, or just ignoring. But we're going to talk about the trade agreement and how that plays out. Second hour, Robert Cardoza from Robert Cardoza Live will return and continue instructing us or giving us background and substance to our economy and how it has developed and evolved from one that began with bartering to one of now international redistribution. So we're going to be talking about all that. Having said that, of course, my co-host, who I these days couldn't do anything without, Joe Hakos from Dry Report. How you doing tonight, Joe?
I'm doing fine there, Mad Prophet. I'm doing just fine. It's too bad that we're alone in the wilderness here. We are a people without representation. These guys have forgotten that the Constitution began with we the people. Now it's we are the government, and we don't care about the people. And that's exactly what it is. They no longer care. Just last November, we the people gave the Republican Party a majority in the Senate, continued their majority in the House of Representatives, and they have just basically thumbed their nose at everybody and said, we don't care what you think. We're going to do what we want. And if we give Obama something, well, good and there. Ha ha, we know better than you. Ha ha. So keep that in mind when they're out there and they're asking you for money, because that's all they ever do is ask you for money.
Right.
And they want your vote. So tell them where to shove that, okay?
Yeah, I had a short dialogue today with one of my friends out here in California. He's a Republican operative, and he's one of these guys that he's not really what you would call a debater. What he does is, if you state an opinion, he's one of these. He's kind of like a Republican troll in some ways. What he does is he just has these little one-liner, snide remarks that he likes to fire back at you. And I had put something out there today about Karl Rove was on Fox News. I believe it was last night or maybe the night before, and had made a comment within the discussion. They were talking. Chris Wallace was asking him. What can we do to stop this violence? What can we do to stop all this stuff?
Yeah, I saw it.
And Rove responded that, well, until somebody basically gets the balls to repeal the Second Amendment, there's not really a whole lot that can be done. Now, I will say that Rove did say he didn't think it was a good idea. He didn't think repealing the Second Amendment was a good idea. But my point was, the fact that he would even bring something like that up means the Republicans, the establishment, are sitting there in a back room somewhere trying to figure out how they could justify doing it.
Exactly.
If it's being brought up, even if it's in a rhetorical or some kind of analogical form, then you can be sure that somebody's thinking, whoever it is that could repeal the Second Amendment would get I guess umpteen gazillion votes from people. And, since the Republican Party is all about winning and not about governing, that would make sense. And, his thing is, well, you're just trying to destroy the GOP. I said, well, no, I'm not doing that at all, because I think the GOP is doing the great job of destroying themselves. I'm just commentating on it. I'm just giving you the play-by-play,
They're doing it on their own. They're doing a damn good job of destroying themselves, and they get everything they deserve. They get everything to deserve. Don't come, don't do what you're saying. It says we don't need another. We got a Democratic Party. If you want that to be that party, change your affiliation and be done with it.
Right.
If you want a Republican Party that stands for something different, then be different. But if you want to go along to get along and show that you can get along with the other side, screw that. The other side doesn't get along with you. They never compromise to be a conservative point of view. They never compromise to do things for the American people, to stay within a limited government realm. They never do that, the other side. So it's like, why would you want to get along with that? Why are you constantly giving in? They constantly give in because they truly believe in it as well.
Well, that's because right now the Democrats and the left as a whole, and the Democrats in particular, they literally control the narrative right now. This is a problem. We had Harold Hervey on here from the Conservative Party USA on Monday, and he brought the point up about the idea, and we've been saying on this show. We've said it. I can't even count the number of times we've talked about it. That the conservative movement needs a spokesperson that can articulate the message in such a way that it attracts people to at least to stand still long enough to listen to it. And because conservatism, when you really take the time to listen to it, is really the only reasonable approach to things. The idea of keeping people out of your business that always screw it up when they touch your business. I mean, that's really how we can assess government today. Ronald Reagan, was it Reagan who said the worst words and the most dangerous words in the world is "I'm the government and I'm here to help"?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
So that whole idea of being able to articulate and control the narrative, well, it doesn't appear that the Republican Party really cares to control the narrative. I think that they just really have pushed that off because it's not really about governing. It's simply about, as Joe said many times in his show, and I agree with him, it's just about keeping their place. A point to prove to that, or evidence of that, is just the way this vote went down on the trade agreement in the House. There was they needed well over 100 votes to pull this thing back the other way. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, in the House, they would have to change their mind. It was well over 100.
120 some odd
well
votes
over 100
to change from one side or the other to get this thing through the House. And in a matter of a couple days and a barbecue, they were able to pull it off. Now, how did that happen? Boehner's out there strong-arming people. You don't vote with me, then you're not going to get that committee appointment. You're not going to get that funding that you're going to need when you come up for re-election. We're going to strong-arm you. We're going to squeeze you. We're going to even blackmail you if we have to get you to vote the way we want.
That's going on now. Jason Chaffetz, I heard him on the radio today talking about, I did that. I pulled the guy's subcommittee thing off because of things that I know. Not everybody knows. Not everybody knows the things that are going on. The football coach knows all this stuff. Oh, bullcrap, Jason Chaffetz.
Well, that's exactly what got John Campbell ousted out here. He stood up in front of the Orange County GOP. Our friend John Webb was going to run against him. And what happened was he stood up in front of the Orange County GOP, and he was being questioned by the constituents. Why are you voting with the Democrats? And his response was, I vote the way I vote because you don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. And he was, a week later, had to drop out of the race because everybody said, well, that's the whole reason we elected you, so you'll tell us what's going on. You're not telling us what's going on. We don't need you there anymore. And so what did they do? They ended up electing Mimi Waters, who was even worse than John Campbell. I mean, this woman so far has voted directly down the Boehner category, man. Anything Boehner wants, that's what Boehner gets. It's like watching Sonny Bono's wife all over again. Bono himself was pretty conservative. His wife gets his position after he dies, and she's been, her and Loretta Sanchez could sit around every night talking about what's going on and laughing and slapping each other around and having their little brewskis or whatever. So this whole idea that do these people think that we're not coherent enough or intelligent enough to know what's going on?
Yeah, they know. They don't care, John. That's the point.
Yeah,
they don't care.
I mean, you're right. And I know in this particular instance, we're probably preaching to the choir here, but it needs to continue to be said. We need to continue to point out these things. We were talking yesterday about this being a majoring in the minors. It would be so much better if we were spending our time talking about things that really mattered. And let's talk about racism. But what do we have to do? We have to talk about the pulling down of a flag because that's what's controlling the narrative.
Yeah, which is stupidity. It's not about the flag.
Yeah.
What if that guy was wrapped up in a rainbow flag?
Yeah. I mean, what if I saw a video today of some girl with an Instagram thing out there trying to start a campaign. Let's all throw American flags down in public places and stomp on them.
Well, that's what's next anyway.
Well, I thought, okay, well, if you lay under that flag, I'll be happy to stomp on it. But if we went out and did that with the gay rainbow flag, oh boy, it'd be an uproar. We're infringing on their rights to be homosexuals.
But the thing is, it's not about the flag.
No,
it's not about it. I mean, this guy was just pure evil. Why don't we talk about how the community at Charleston, South Carolina, came together to pray and bring their community together? That seems to be an actual uplifting message that we can actually wrap our heads around. This other crap is just more crap.
Yeah, and you'll notice that we haven't heard anything other than Obama's going to give the eulogy on Friday, but I haven't heard or seen a whole lot going on in Charleston since the weekend. Why? Because everybody's talking about the freaking flag. And I hate doing this because I do think there's more important things, but I also know the narrative, and we have to address the narrative. Because if we're sitting here talking about this while everybody else is talking about that, nobody's listening to what we're saying. So we have to meet people where they're at and say, okay, this is what's going on. This is why it's going on. Now let's get back over here to the important things. That's really why I'm ranting about this so consistently. It's not just so I can sit here and make fun of liberals. That's easy to do. I could do that all day long. I probably do it in my sleep. But the point is that let's take this narrative where it's at and let's talk about how utterly ridiculous and stupid and asinine it is. So we're going to do that. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this issue and be ready because you're going to be hearing a lot of "we told you so's" in the next 15 minutes, and then Next, at the bottom of the hour, we'll get into the trade issue that's going on out there. So stay with us right here on the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Hey, we're back right here on the Conservative Syndicate, and you are listening to us live right now. We're coming from the left coast here on my side and the east coast on Joe's side. We've got the whole thing covered from sea to shining sea. I am your host, John Matthews. I've got my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dry Report, and we're talking about this issue of the flag becoming the center of everything right now in this debate about racism. It's let me start out by saying what I see here, as we've already identified. It's just another distraction. I like to call it the red flag herring. You know, it was thrown out there much in the same way that we saw the revival of the war on women in 2012. Let me explain. During the 2012 debate, you'll remember that George Stephanopoulos threw a ringer question at Mitt Romney. I think it was the second or third debate. It was they were in the mid process there somewhere, and he asked Mitt Romney if he thought that states should have the right to ban contraception. And you could tell that Romney was thrown off. He's like, well, George, nobody's talking about that, and it's not an issue. Nobody's saying anything about it. And that ignited or reignited the war on women. What it did was it took the issue of abortion and it minimized it, because abortion was, polls were showing that people were becoming more and more anti-abortion. And they needed one to change the narrative from abortion to birth control, and at the same time be able to take that and apply it to, quote-unquote, the war on women. And the general perception was put out there by the media that Republicans want all women barefoot and pregnant. You know, we don't want them out there doing anything. We don't want them. We want them at home where they belong, you know, making us dinner and dusting the furniture. And it worked. It worked, and it continues to work. Now when we have somebody like Hillary Clinton, you know she's going to be playing that to the hilt. She's already doing that. So in this same manner, this flag thing has become, they've made it a symbol of racism and hatred. And so any aspect of that being portrayed or displayed in any manner now, all of a sudden has become indicative of racism. And of course, we all have to be honest and say, I doubt there are very many black people out there flying Confederate flags before or after. You think so, Joe?
Oh, I know at least one that does.
Well, I know there are some that do, but I mean, I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, you compare proportionately. I mean, we can be honest about this. My kids live in Arkansas. I've been down in Arkansas. I see what goes on down there. It's not a big deal. But then again, people aren't flying that flag out there because they hate black people. They're flying that flag out there because they have some type of identity with being from the South. That's really what it's about. It's about, I'm not saying there are those who do not, because obviously there are groups that use this type of symbolism to portray, a hateful agenda. And there are certainly white supremacists out there flying flags. The KKK use the flag and everything else. But again, what it is a few people are now being painted with that broad brush of media propaganda, and everybody is now, as Obama told us back in 2008, clinging to their guns and religion. That's really a portrayal here. That's really, they have revived that argument that white America hates black America, and in particularly this president and everything that he stands for. And the flag is indicative of that. If you like the Confederate flag, then you can't be anything but a racist. That is the message that's being portrayed. That is the narrative that is being controlled by the left and the media, or the leftist media. One 6 of one, half a dozen another. Now, we were talking on Monday in a conversation we had with Karen Sigmund, who was on our show from Rage Against the Media, and we were talking about this idea of pulling the flag down. What's her name? Haley, Governor Haley out South Carolina, came out and I guess the state, her Senate, the Assembly, what do they call it? God, I can't remember. Their Congress, their representatives are going to vote next week as to whether or not pull this flag. And the way this stuff has been portrayed has been exaggerated to begin with. First of all, they keep saying, "Oh, we got to pull the flag down from the Capitol." The flag is not flying at the Capitol. It's flying on some grounds across from the Capitol, and I believe it's at a memorial. Am I right, Joe?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's not on the Capitol building.
No.
If you look on top of the Capitol dome there's the American flag and the state flag of South Carolina.
Right. And I believe years ago they had pulled that down, but they have it at this memorial on some grounds across from the Capitol building. But they're still portraying that the Capitol is flying it. And it's affected so much so that I believe today the governor of Alabama, their state flag has the stars and bars. And they pulled their own state flag down from the Capitol building. Now, I was speculating on Monday with Karen that this issue was going to go beyond the flag. It's like, okay, if a government official decides, let's be patronizing here and let's pander to this racist thing. I thought it was funny that Haley was, in the same breath, she's saying, yeah, we have to recognize that history is gone, but we need to focus on the families. We need to focus on the victims of the murder, but nothing is being focused on the victims of the murder. Everything is being focused on the flag.
Thank you.
And so I speculated, and I said, well, I can see this getting into a free speech issue, that we're going to start telling people that they can't buy merchandise with this flag on it, or you can't wave this flag, you can't put a bumper sticker on you. I understand the General Lee from the movie Dukes of Hazzard is under attack.
Yes, exactly. Well, Walmart and Sears and Amazon are all pulling Confederate flags off of their online and stores and everything else. But it's like, really, are they going to? So they're going to pull all the videos, the Dukes of Hazzards off because a stupid car had a flag painted on top of it, because that car was extremely dangerous and offensive to people.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'll tell you what offended me most about the car was that sick orange it was painted.
Well, that and the fact that it did these impossible.
Well, that thing always reminded me of an Iranian taxi,
It's just,
But anyway, the point being, as I said, this is what was going to happen. And not to Karen's detriment. She said, no, she didn't think it was going to go that far. Well, lo and behold, what do we find out today? There's this mass movement across the country. As Joe just mentioned, we've got retailers out there, Walmart, Sears, Amazon, eBay, not going to allow the sale of anything that depicts the Confederate flag. Now, in context with that, let's keep this in context. This flag was not the flag of the Confederacy. And people don't want to or don't know or don't care. This is not what this flag really was. It was a battle flag. And the size of the flag on the battlefield determined the regiments, troops, platoons, or whatever they called all those things. And the flag that's called the Stars and Bars was General Lee's flag. So it's like when they saw that flag, they knew the general was in the area. I don't know why he did that. You let the enemy know where you're at. But, you know, I guess in those days, I guess there was some kind of honor in fighting that, you know, we don't shoot the guys that are running the show or whatever. But anyway, it is now trickling down, just as we said. And it's not just the flag now. We're reading that in Baltimore, they want to rename the Robert E. Lee Park to Lake Roland Park because it's more diverse. I don't know what that means. Maybe there was somebody named Roland Park out there or something.
I don't know. Let's just name it Captain Kangaroo Park. I mean, really? We're gonna redefine. I mean, I heard someone saying today that, you know, Thomas Jefferson owned slaves, so we need to get rid of the Jefferson Memorial in D.C. now.
No. Are we gonna
you know, like I said, how far are we going to let this go? How far are we going to let this insanity go?
Yeah,
because this is insanity.
Let's pull George Washington off the quarter and the dollar bill. You know, I you know, we were joking about this on Monday, Joe. I had this thought the other day as I was kind of playing that around in my head. I really find this is what we need to do. Let's give up this idea of putting women on the $10 bill. I think what we should do is we should put Barack Obama on the penny, because it costs $1.50 to make a penny, and I think symbolically that is correct.
Well, yeah, I get the irony on that.
Yeah,
I think we should just put pictures of funny bunny, fuzzy animals on it.
Well, right after we designate Barack Obama on the penny because it takes $1.50 to make a penny, then we just discontinue the penny.
No, that won't happen because that would be racist.
Well, but he'll have his symbolism. Oh, anyway, back to the discussion here. So Baltimore, you know, why don't they just burn the park down? Isn't that what they do in Baltimore? We don't like it. Let's burn the park down.
I don't know. It's up to the mayor. If she deems that a zone that's allowed to catch fire, then she can do that.
Yeah. Maybe she'll make it a kill zone. Yeah.
That's if Loretta Lynch and the Department of Justice say that is within their plans, because the feds are controlling that city now, not the elected officials of anybody in the city of Baltimore.
Ah, okay. All right. Okay. So, Baltimore
Well, we've
wants
solved
to change.
absolutely nothing here tonight, because this is not a problem that's going to get solved by anybody, because really, what's the problem? The problem is there's evil in the world.
Yeah.
And until people get wrap their heads around the fact that God controls what's going on around here, and you better get right with that, and then you can look at the evil and you can know who wins in the end anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think the phrase that keeps popping in my mind is woe to him, Isaiah 5:20, woe to him who calls evil good and good evil. And that's what we're seeing here depicted right now.
Yes.
Let's close this one part of it up here before we go to break real quick here. So Baltimore wants to rename their park. They also want to change street names. So Robert E. Lee Park. They also want to, New Orleans wants to pull down the statue of Robert E. Lee. Alabama, as I said, has already pulled the flag. All these things are happening across the country right now. Monuments are going to Jefferson Davis in Austin, Texas. They want to pull his statue down. All these things are happening for a reason. We got to go to a break. When I come back, I'm going to sum this up because I want to get into our next topic.
Yes, tell us why.
I'm sorry?
Tell us why.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why I've been ranting about this. So we'll be back. Stay with us right here on the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at the theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoza. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoza Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardozalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardozalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. All right, we're back right here on the Conservative Syndicate. I am your host, John Matthews, man, prophet of the airways, on a mission from God, and that mission is to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. And with me is my co-host, partner in crime, Joe Hakos from Dreyer Report, where I want to sum this up here, this thing we're talking about, this big deal that's being made over the Confederate flag. We talked about it on Monday. And I actually am starting to enjoy this idea that I am the mad prophet of the airways. I can see this stuff coming a mile away these days. And, well, it doesn't really require any special insight. All you got to do is watch what's going on. And reason sets in. And the left is so predictable, you can tell what they're going to do. And so what's happening here is that this symbol of hatred is now becoming the center point of everything. Now, my point being is that this is going to now transcend, or it's going to take them to the new, where they really want to go with this. Where they really want to go with this is gun control. This is where this thing is headed. Remember back in 2008, we Americans, we Tea Party people, want to cling to our guns and religion. We want to cling to our guns and religion. And President wasn't 24 hours went by, and this guy's already out there talking about the need for gun control. These senseless deaths that are being committed through the use of some wingnut getting their hands on a gun, as if the argument always being the idea that if we had more gun control laws, the insane and the criminal wouldn't have access to guns. That's what makes them criminal and insane, is that they can get access to these things. But the point being here is that this is all leading up. This is all a foundation, and you're going to start hearing about another week or so, and you're going to start hearing it transferred into this issue back into gun control. Now, the object of the game is going to be identify the haters and the racists by the flags they fly. And second, since most of that is being done by white people, well, then we need to focus more on white people as being the perpetrators of violence, especially gun violence. We'll completely ignore that for every 2 white deaths that come by guns, 51 come by blacks shooting blacks. We'll completely ignore that.
That's a fact. That's called a fact. So we have to ignore those.
Yeah, and so the idea that for every white that is shot by a black person, there's only for every 5 white people that are shot by black persons, there's 1 white person shooting a black person, okay? But 51 black people shooting black people. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is that we have too many racists running around with guns. And so we're going to identify them that way. And now we're going to talk about it in terms of being terrorists. And I don't have the time to do it today, but I'm going to probably do it next week. We're going to talk about Janet Napolitano's report back in 2009 in which she identifies groups of white Americans as being potential terrorists. So the idea here is that we're going to need gun control to minimize the terrorists, the white terrorists in particular, that are running around this country killing people because of their insane ideology, and they got their gun in one hand and their Bible in the other, and they're out there wiping out all the good people in this country that are standing in line for the government dole. That's where we're going with this. And we called it here. We told you it was coming. It is coming. Next week we'll spend a little bit more time in detail on Janet Napolitano's report. It's a 14, 15-page report. I think it might be 40 pages, identifying how the government has come to see American citizens as terrorists. And now you're going to start seeing this being linked together to further attempt to try to advance this gun control legislation. And I guarantee you that you're going to see the Republicans jump on board this wagon like crazy. And it won't be so far down the line where we'll have somebody like Karl Rove again sitting in front of Chris Wallace saying, yeah, maybe we should repeal the Second Amendment. That's where it's going, folks. That's where it's going. I'm telling you, sure as I'm sitting here. I don't spend all my hours looking at this stuff just to be a blowhard. I'm telling you, it's coming down the pipe here. So you heard it here first. I like Joe always says that. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. This is where it's going. So having said that, let's move on to our next topic here. You about ready for that, Joe?
Yeah, well, actually, this topic is actually important and near and dear to everybody that lives in this country, because you just been sold a bill of goods, people, and Barack Obama is going to be signing it in the next couple of days.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the trade bill, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That's the important thing to happen, not this other stuff that's going on. It's really, the important thing is in Charleston was the people coming together. Let's do some healing. This other stuff is not important. When you're talking about South Carolina right now, this is important. This trade bill, this is what's going to important. This is going to affect you, your children, your grandchildren.
Oh yeah, and it could be. This could be the final piece that completely causes our republic to implode. And this could be the element. This could be that last piece that puts us on the same par with the socialist European unions.
Absolutely.
It is so. I can't think of any. I thought Obamacare was a bad thing.
Well, this on top of it, yeah.
Yeah, especially when Obamacare is going to be subsidized by us taxpayers, not just to take care of the uninsured here in the country. We're going to be taking care of anybody that crosses our borders under this trade agreement. And you think, well, that isn't going to happen? Baloney, it's not going to happen. It's already happening, for crying out loud.
It's written in the bill.
Yeah, but right now we just call them illegal aliens.
This
trade bill will make them legal aliens. And people aren't seeing that. Now, how do you want to start this, Joe? Should we start with just telling, let's give the brief rundown on what happened. A couple weeks ago, this TPA aspect of the bill, the trade...
Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Okay, but I'm not talking about the TPP. I'm not talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because that hasn't been written yet. We're talking about these elements that they want to pass in order to begin to write the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Okay, we have the TPA, which is the Trans-Pacific Agreement, and that is supposed to set the parameters by which decisions are made.
Yes.
Okay, and then we have the Trans-Agreement Adjustment, which is supposed to subsidize American workers who lose their jobs or don't earn a decent wage because of the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
And the most secret part of this, John, is the trade and services agreement that's attached to all this. That's the part that's gonna kill American jobs. It's gonna hurt this country. It's a backdoor immigration policy, and nobody's talked about it. Well, for one, it's in secret. And let's be quite honest, people. The only reason why any of this is being talked about somewhat in the open is because WikiLeaks brought it to everybody's attention. We can't get this from our own government. We have to get this from this clandestine website, WikiLeaks.
Yeah, or we have to go out there and dig the information up. You know, I tried just 2 days ago. I saw out there McConnell had a press conference talking about how this thing was going to go down. And today I spent most of the morning, I couldn't find an article on it. It's like, okay, tell me what that means. You know, how do we translate that? 2 days ago, he's telling us, yeah, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Today, after it's passed, you can't find anything in there about what he talked about in terms of what this agreement is supposed to be about. Now, tell me somebody from Media Matters didn't pop into Yahoo and Reuters and Associated Press and say, hey, pull it, because it's not out there right now. I mean, I had to dig, and fortunately, somebody else had posted an article out there that kind of gave me some information and some background on it. I found it on Facebook. I didn't find it out there on the media, you know, on the internet. I found it sitting in Facebook somewhere. Somebody had done some digging and found it and put it out there. Now, let's reassess here real quick what we're talking about here. We have the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which includes, I believe, 12 Pacific Rim nations. That has not been written yet. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get the parameters set with the Trans-Pacific Agreement, which is supposed to set the parameters as to Barack Obama's authority in negotiating terms for trade.
Okay,
and then it's
so
an up and down vote before Congress. No filibusters allowed. You vote for it. You can't add amendments. It's up or down. Okay.
Here's the other thing that we need to say about this. It's just not Barack Obama. This is any president in the future allowing this. And so Congress has just effectively said, we're going to vote to let the executive branch take even more power from Congress, and specifically the United States Senate. And we're going to let that happen because we no longer want to be held accountable for anything. And these trade agreements are nothing more than basically treaties. And explicitly in the Constitution, it says the Senate has advice and consent over treaties. And they're just going, well, we don't want to do that anymore. That's tough. That's hard to do. So we're going to let the president do it. We need to. Everybody that's got an elected official in D.C. now should stand up and not donate to it anymore, because they're getting plenty of money. I got some figures here. They're getting plenty of money anyway. Not give them any money. And again, try to get a fine, upstanding individual in your part of the world and have them run against these people, because they deserve to be booted out. They're not working for you people. They're working for these donors and these corporations that love this agreement.
Right. Now, let's do this real quick here before we go to break here. I want to point out here that we had 100 and I think it was well over 120, 122, 124. That number sticks in my head somewhere. 2 weeks ago, that the TPA went down in flames by that many votes. They needed that many votes to get it passed. They didn't get it. It went back to the House. Boehner twisted arms, took people out of positions of authority and power, threatened them, and did whatever he had to do. And a week later, they vote and they get all the votes they need. All Republicans. In fact, 2 Democrats. They had 2 less Democrats than they did the week before. 14 Democrats voted for it the first time. Only 12 voted for it this time. The Republicans carried this thing. And there's a reason why they did it. I've been searching, trying to figure out what in the world would they gain. What could they possibly be thinking about the idea that Our constituents, our base tells us they don't want to support anything Obama does, but we're going to do it anyway. There is a reason. Joe hit on it, and I'm gonna give that to you in details in just a minute here. We got to go to a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at or on the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoza. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoza Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardozalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardozalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. Okay, hey, we're back right here on the Conservative Syndicate, and I am your host, John Matthews. I'm glad that you took the time to join us today. I hope you're getting something out of this. If you want to, or if you're just tuning in, you can catch us on our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and pull this up and re-listen to it. Share it with your friends. Get some information out there. We try so hard in this show to stay focused on educating, informing, and engaging our audience. We're not just here to talk just to hear ourselves talk. We're here to actually do something and try to accomplish something. That's taking back this great republic that God has given us and allowing us to continue to prosper under His rule and reign, if not by written law, certainly by principles established by Him. The founding principles: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I've got my co-host Joe Hakos with us, and we're talking about the trade agreement here. And I said just before the break here, I was talking about the idea of trying to figure out what would motivate somebody like a John Boehner or Mitch McConnell to go this far to not only vote with Obama, as they have done in the past, we've seen that, but to actually lead the campaign to get one of his pieces of legislation passed. There was something that just didn't stick right with me. Of course, knowing that there has to be something dirty, it has to be something impure, or they wouldn't be doing it. But the idea that they actually have they've been walking point on this, rather than Obama's people, Josh Earnest and all those people that he always uses, Axelrod and all the other clowns that surface whenever Obama goes on one of his "Give me all that I want" campaigns. And I had to roll this thing over my head, and today it hit me. As I was reading the Senator roll call. And it's interesting that this time around there's 60 Republicans. Now, that's not a supermajority, right? Supermajority is what, 67? Is that?
Well, yeah. What do you have to get to 2/3 or 3/4?
Supermajority. I think a filibuster proof.
60 gets it to the point where they can move on with whatever the cloture vote allows them to pull it up. So yeah, you know, it's definitely a majority since there's only 100 of these criminals up there. I'm going to call them exactly what they are anymore because they are criminal. They're not following the Constitution, and if you don't follow the Constitution, which is the rule of the land, that means you're breaking the law, and so you're hence a criminal.
Yeah, and I was. I guess not surprised by the fact that Marco Rubio voted for it. You know, everybody, Joe and I have an ongoing, we rib each other about this guy. The idea that, you know, there's so many people that thinks this guy's a conservative, and that's baloney. That's malarkey. I remember we had Harold Hervey on here from the Conservative Party of USA Monday try to convince us that Marco Rubio was a conservative. That, if there was anything about that conversation, it made me a little, you know, skeptical. It was that remark. You know, Marco Rubio's a conservative. But I was disappointed, very disappointed, and this is, I guess, going to be evidence of things to come. Tom Cotton from Arkansas also went with this. Now, Tom Cotton ran strictly on a Tea Party ticket. He ran strictly with espousing the Tea Party ideology, and that's what took him past Mark Pryor. Down there in Arkansas was the idea we had a real solid, I mean, we endorsed this guy on this show. You know, this is one of those guys that we figured, hey, this was going to be Ted Cruz's buddy, you know, that kind of thing. And he voted along with this, and he's done this several times in the past. And so we see where that's going. You know, we got another turncoat on us, another guy that says he's one thing and not another. Of course, the normal people voted, you know, McCain, McConnell, Lindsey Graham, you know, all these people, Lamar Alexander, they all voted for it. I was surprised to see Dianne Feinstein vote for it. That was unusual, unless she's going to make money off of it, you know.
But she did, John. She did. But she did.
Well,
she made money off it. They donated money to her.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, but she's that leftist brand out there. I thought she'd be more along the lines with Pelosi, you know, which, by the way, Pelosi didn't vote for it. That should tell you something. You know, you want to get some gauges as to how bad this thing is. Okay. So anyway, 60 Republicans in the Senate voted for it, got it through. Now, here's my point. I'm weighing this stuff out of my head and I'm rolling it over. What is the common theme? There is a common theme between what the Republican establishment wants and what Barack Obama wants, but different needs out of this common theme. Now, bear with me here just a second here. The GOP wants this because right now the GOP controls the Senate and the House. And their belief is, I believe their belief is that is going to remain that way after 2016. Now, we've got more than double the number of Republicans coming up for re-election in 2016 than we do Democrats. I believe there's 26 Republicans up for re-election in the Senate. There's 10 up for re-election on the Democrat side. And all the House is up for grabs, okay? Now, if the GOP believes that they're going to retain the majority in both the House and the Senate, then would it not make sense that the key to them being able to do whatever it is they want to do would be to control the White House also? So my belief is they think that they want, or they're going to be able to show the public that Republicans can govern. And they can govern through compromise. They call it partisanship, but it isn't really that. It's compromise. It's like we're going to compromise. We're going to lose the battle in hopes of winning the war. Now, what I'm saying through that is, if they they believe that things like this is going to give them a Republican, put a Republican in the White House. So based on that, and now you say, well, what about the labor aspect of this? Well, the Republican Party for decades now has been the party of cheap labor. That's why they don't care so much about immigration reform. It's filling the factories. It's bringing money in to the corporate entities, in some cases, the mom and pop businesses or whatever. The point being is the Republicans are first and foremost capitalists. So how you make money, it does not matter as much as making that money. So there's the argument. They like the idea of cheap labor coming into the country, so they're willing to look the other way. And that's why something like the TPA or the TSA or the TAA, all these elements that deal with bringing immigrants into this country to work and earn American dollars, is not that big of a deal for them. Now, what does Obama see in this? What would a very proven socialist, Marxist, communist want with a trade agreement like this? Well, obviously, it expands redistribution on a global scale. We move one step closer to a global economy by including these people in our economy. And whether we trade off dollars in the form of tariffs or taxes or anything else really is irrelevant, because it's all really money going into the same pot. On a bigger scale, he also wants the influx of immigrants, because in the eyes of a Democrat, anybody that immigrates to this country has to be a Democrat. I mean, why would anybody come over here to be a Republican when you can live on the taxpayer dime rather than come over here and this being the land of opportunity, it's become the land of entitlement. But it is another way of initiating redistribution. This is Keynesian economics. You know, I was doing some research on this. I didn't know this, but Franklin Roosevelt is the first president that got Congress to give him unilateral authority to negotiate trade agreements. There's your Keynesian economics there. And what they did is they gave him, we'll talk about more next hour, but there was a trade agreement, and it was supposed to come up for renewal every 3 years before Congress. And that morphed into 5 years. It morphed into 10 years. And then in 1987, Congress quit looking at these trade agreements altogether. And they just haven't really paid any much attention to it, except with NAFTA. And so what's happened is, through Keynesian economics that Roosevelt initiated, we're right back to square one here. We're giving the president unilateral ability to negotiate trade with international communities. Well, what does that mean? It's Keynesian economics on the grand scale. And who foots the bill for all this? The average middle-class taxpayer. You guys we're being branded as the class that everybody's out to save. Well, the only reason they want to save us is so they can take all our money and give it to somebody else. It's that simple. Now, is this going to help? Is this going to take away from the 1%? No, the rich are going to become richer. And guess what? Most of those rich people are leftists. So we're not resolving any problems here. We're widening the income disparity gap. That's where this thing is going. You got a couple of things to say, Joe?
I would believe that the deal was done in secret. It's globalizing our trade agreement, which is our trade. So it's not about trade. We're gonna be shipping jobs overseas, just like we did with NAFTA. Instead of going to Mexico, they're going to go over to the Far East. We're going to have we're going to unify with Russia and China for if you can wrap your head around that. But that's what this is going to lead to. And so, remember Ryan was saying we can't allow China to lead on this. Well, guess what? They hold us over a barrel because of our debt.
Right.
They are going to lead over this. We're going to be subservient to them.
Yeah, you get a country like Russia to talk to a country like China, says, "Hey, I got the oil. I can drive up oil prices. I can disturb that market. By the way, you got debt. Start calling it in." You know, that kind of stuff. I mean, China has been excluded from this. You don't think they're going to take this sitting down?
No, China's not our friend. They're not our friend. They're our enemy. They're hacking into us. They got 18 million data records on 18 million Americans that have security clearances. And on that, anybody that's a reference in those clearances. China's not our friend. These people are evil. And our quote-unquote elected officials just went along with it in secret, no less. And the 44th President of the United States is going to sign this into a treaty that was not done by Congress. And congratulations, America. You've just been transformed.
Yeah, and what you're going to see happen in this, in the big scale of things, you get allies like Russia and China, pull in a couple of these Middle East countries like Iran. You've got Armageddon sitting on our back porch. It's that simple. It's that simple. And it's going to, this stuff is shaping up in a big way. And all the Republicans are worried about is, can we hold on to our power? You've got no power. You've given it all away. You've given it all away. Anyway, we're at the top of the hour here. We got to go to a break. We're going to play you the Edwards Notebook for this week, pay a couple bills, and we'll be back. And Bob Cardoza from Robert Cardoza Live will be with us next hour. So stay with us right here on the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back.
You can always tell what a political office holder thinks about our nation based upon what decisions he or she makes. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, we all know that America is not on good terms with Muslims. Those who follow the Crescent One have threatened to destroy both Israel and the United States of America. Muslims murder Christians for sport. They rape little girls, then marry them. Muslims have been stopped just in the nick of time from blowing up Times Square and other New York City locales. Oh, and did I mention that Muslims are probably the most racist people on earth who call black people slaves and men raisin heads? So what does progressive New York City Mayor de Blasio do? He has ordered the New York Police Department to start recruiting and hiring a lot more Muslims. Currently, there are 800 Muslim uniformed officers and 20 higher-ranking police officials. The only logical conclusion I can come to is that, like President Obama in regards to America, Mayor de Blasio doesn't really care about the stability and security of New York City. Hopefully, before it's too late, voters will care more about whom they select for office. I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com.
You're listening to the Shake and Wake Radio Network, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will make you free. ShakeandWakeRadio.com.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoza. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoza Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardozalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardozalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
America and those listening around the world. It's time for The Conservative Syndicate with your host, John Matthews, self-ordained, politically incorrect, mad prophet of the airways. The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most knowledgeable activists and pundits today that together seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement with those seeking the truth regarding the similarities and differences between the religion of politics and the politics of religion.
We have put in place the toughest ethics laws and toughest transparency rules of any administration in history.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever.
Did you mislead Americans about taxes, about keeping your plan in order to get the bill passed?
No, I did not. All you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
For some reason, people keep on being surprised when I do what I said I was going to do. I'm doing it because I said I was going to do it, and I think it's the right thing to do.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
And now, your host, John Matthews.
Okay, hey, we're back right here. Hour 2 of the Conservative Syndicate. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and I hope you got something out of that first hour. Definitely hope you got something out of that first hour. That was the whole intent and purpose of what we do here on the Conservative Syndicate, is to give you something to think about. Not only that, give you something to share with others, those who are out there living on air, just whatever hot air is being floated out there, and they just grab it and consume it, and, we're trying to counter that. We're trying to give you something of substance. And that's what we really try to do here on the Conservative Syndicate. I've got with me my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dryer Report. And, during the break here, Joe shot me over an article here on this trade agreement in the the website New American, and really kind of a very unusual article. One, because it's on the New American. It's from the New American, which is pretty much a leftist rag, from what I understand. Am I right about that, Joe?
I have no opinion about the New American one way or another. I just I saw what they put on about the agreement, and like you said, it's hard to find any information on it because this deal is done in secret.
Right.
So so any information you can get out, you have to go through a variety of sources, whether it be transcripts of radio shows, documents from the Federal Elections Commission. I mean, it's just you have to. We shouldn't have to do this. We used to have these things called investigative reporters. Now we have just media. Producers, basically. They're not really news people anymore. It's ridiculous. But so I don't have an opinion on the New American one way or another, John. I just I saw this and this article, and it does ring true with a lot of the other materials I was able to see. So
yeah, well,
it's all one concise place.
I have pulled stuff from the American, the New American in the past, and it is, for the most part, very leftist in their slant. That's why they call it the New American. Is moving forward. It's kind of like the Free Republic. They use these words that people read. Oh yeah, the Free Republic. That's what we are. And then you start reading what they publish, and you're like, well, this doesn't even sound like a republic. Maybe the Republic of China or something like that.
Yes.
But anyway, that was the first thing I noticed about the article. Was it was a very reasonable article and very concise in its argument. And I thought, well, the guy that wrote it probably is not a leftist. They just put it on there because people on the left, a lot of people on the left oppose this trade agreement because of the fact that it's going to cut into union money. It's going to one way or the other. And which is another interesting side aspect of this. I wonder what Obama is going to promise the unions in exchange for this. What do you think?
Well, you know what he promised the unions. That was what that help bill. The part where, hey, if you lost your job, we're going to help you with training so you can get another job. And that's all BS because you're out of a job, you're out of a job. They're not going to help you find another job. They're not going to train you for another job. They tried that crap with with NAFTA, and we saw how that worked out. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I still have an article for that with that. What happened to those folks? They didn't get jobs. So that thing where they're going to the assistance part, they're not going to help. And that's what he gave the unions.
Yeah, well, I on this show a couple years ago, it seems that long ago, I did a segment on these job training centers. You go down into these places like down the south side of Chicago and all these other places, and even the place I came out of last year. I attended, took my videography class, got certified in videography at an ROP here, a regional occupational facility that trains people in a particular vocation, and the ROPs, I remember going to ROPs back in the 70s when I first got out of the military, I realized once I got out of the Navy there was no civilian jobs for submarine hunters. So I thought, oh, my God, I got to figure out what I want to do here. I didn't want to go back to college. So I went down, and the ROPs in those days was basically they taught you how to do a resume. And I'm like, well, okay, the only thing I got on my resume is that I drove a delivery truck before I went into military, and I hunted submarines when I was in the military.
Yeah, and you can do that at Walmart. I think they have submarines on aisle 9.
Well, I just wish video games had been out there. I could have been killer at Pac-Man back in those days. But anyway, so this time around when I went to the ROPs, there are some good things that come out of this stuff. I mean, you are talking about people that are having a hard time. They have GED programs. A lot of it had to do with health care. People like to do security, things that they could actually train you for that didn't require that you had, a college degree. A lot of EMT drivers, a lot of people that drive ambulances and stuff like that. And it's not that easy of stuff, but it's easy enough that people can adapt to it. So my whole point being is that I started doing this study on all the training centers that were going on, all these things that Acorn was behind. Acorn was behind setting up all these training centers in Chicago. And what it turned out to be was a cash funneling thing where the money was coming in and then turning right around and going back out into campaigns for local officials, that kind of stuff. And they started auditing these places and realized that nobody was getting trained for anything. And not only that, people weren't even showing up. So this whole idea that the government is going to somehow fix this, displacing people, and if the whole idea is to bring down the cost of labor, then what are you going to do to somebody that's in a union that's making $15 an hour or $20 an hour, even $25 or $30 an hour, and now you're going to take them out of their job and say, okay, we're going to train you to do something that pays half that much?
That's how they sold it. That's how they sold it, brother. I'm telling you. You asked what Obama got for the unions. Yeah. That's how they sold this.
Yeah, well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. But again, it's one of those things where it's going to have to pan out over time before people see it. Having said that, we've got Bob Cardoza with us from Robert Cardoza Live, coming off the air from his show, which streams Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. out here on the East Coast. That would be 7 to 9 out on the East Coast, or out here 4 to 6 West Coast. 7 to 9 East Coast. And Bob, the last couple of weeks he's been on, has been talking to us about, educating us on economics and how the economy runs. And so let's start off with that, Bob. In light of what we now know, Senate finally got the House voted on the TPA. The Senate today handed it to Obama for signature. What do you think about it so far?
I think we now still know nothing.
I'm sorry?
I think we now still know nothing.
Yeah. Well, I think we know and we're now screwed, and we just don't know how it's going to come.
Well, I still have this worry about how it is Obama's own party doesn't support him in this, and our party does.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Because I have figured this out. My miraculous mind kicked into gear yesterday. It became clear to me. I'll paraphrase it. We did it just before the hour, just before you came on, but I'll paraphrase it for you. The Republicans are expecting to run the White House after 2016 and have control of Congress, so they think, well, what a great deal that we'll be in charge of all this. And so what they're doing is they're trying to paint this picture that they can govern, that they can compromise. They're not like the Senate of Barack Obama that never voted on anything. We can vote. Even if it means selling people out, at least we're voting. We're proving to you that we can compromise. We're not the party of no. And the thought is to get into the White House based on these actions, the omnibus bill, the communist bill, and the executive amnesty, all this other stuff. We're giving Obama everything he wants. You guys see us now as the party that can govern. We're in power. And the backside of it is that we have more cheap labor coming into the country. That fits the Republican bill of capitalism right there.
Well, Obama, in this particular case, if I'm reading it right, and I'm just surmising, John, because I don't really know. By the way, good evening, Joe. How you doing today?
I'm good, Robert. I'm just fine. Thank you for being here.
This is not just an issue of cheap labor coming into the United States. It's us sending our manufacturing and our resources outside of the United States to cheap labor as well. So it's bad enough when we have the cheap labor come into the United States, and some pay taxes, some don't pay taxes, some get paid in cash, some are here legitimate. The problem that I see now is that we're authorizing this cheap labor to stay in their own countries and make this money and take these jobs away from our own citizens here in the United States. I suppose from a manufacturing or from a business standpoint, I would have to say, if I was responsible for the bottom line, gosh, that's a good deal. I'm answering to all my stockholders.
Well, yeah.
If I'm worried about the economy of the United States, I have to be really, really concerned about what's going on here. I still just don't understand why it's important that the president has this fast-track authority, and that he can do this, in that it's not important enough for us to know what the heck is in it or what's being negotiated.
Well, Joe had pointed out at the beginning, in the first hour, that this is something that really, in the big picture here, is not going to do too much for Obama, because he's going to be gone by the time this stuff all kicks in. This is about the Republicans thinking, we'll have the White House in 2016. We'll have the power. So, and then the Democrats are thinking just the opposite. The Democrats are thinking, hey, we're going to have the taxpayers subsidizing everything that this trade agreement screws up. What do we got? What this is redistribution of wealth on an international scale. This is taking American tax dollars and subsidizing international trade, international labor. And so that fits the bill of the liberals. This is all about redistribution. This is about those people that we can bring into the country are going to be Democrats, because why? That's what aliens do. That's what they do when the foreigners come into this country. Of course, they're all going to be Democrats. Who wouldn't want to be on the government payroll?
Well, John, those are the foreigners that would be coming into the country that would actually become citizens, which could take years and years and years. The fact that we signed this trade agreement doesn't make them citizens. And even though I know your position is they're going to go out and vote illegally anyway, I just don't think that is a proliferation of what's actually going to happen.
No. That is incorrect, Robert.
Yeah.
You think these guys are going to come in as citizens?
No, they're coming in as, how do they put it? They're coming in under a legal guise, because they're coming in under services agreement. It's part of this bill that's done in secret. It's very secret. It's a service.
Well, I understand, but it doesn't make any difference, Joe, whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, a Purple People leader. They don't get to vote.
You're absolutely correct. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, but they're coming in here. They're coming in under a quasi-legal immigration policy that was not done by our government. It was going to be done by whatever executive is in power at the time.
Well, there's a difference between the immigration laws that you're talking about and this trade agreement. The trade agreement...
It's in the agreement, Robert.
I haven't seen the agreement. Is it available for me to see? Because I don't think anybody's been able to see it yet.
Well, we've got to keep everything in perspective when we talk about what's been seen and what hasn't been seen. The TPA agreement is out there. It has been published. I've looked at it. Mm-hmm. What we're talking about, what hasn't been seen, and this is really why this is such a big issue, is that the actual Trans-Pacific Partnership has not even been written yet. They're trying to resolve these things with the TPA and the TSA and the TAA. All these elements that put together now are going to set the foundation for the Trans-Pacific Partnership to be established. And I think what Joe is saying here is simply, we have to consider this, Bob. The fact is that we have immigration laws now that are not being enforced, and both sides of the aisle don't really care to enforce it. They talk about reform, but that's just talk. It's that's election stuff, election cycle stuff that we can talk about. We're going to fix that we never really cared about fixing, because it benefits both sides. We say, okay, somebody going to come in here in this country on a work permit or under a service agreement. They're already saying we should give the people that are here illegally citizenship. How much easier is it going to be say, oh, come in here and work for us for 5 years and we'll make you a citizen?
Well, John, unless I missed something, this has got nothing, this immigration issue has got nothing to do with the trade agreement. The trade agreement is for a balance of trade on the Pacific Rim that is going to balance out the labor issues, the manufacturing issues, and the exchange of trade goods, import and export between the United States and other countries. It's really got nothing to do with citizenship.
It has everything to do with it. That's the back end of the deal, Bob. It's that everything we're being told has to do with trade. What we're not being told, the stuff that is going on behind the closed doors, is the immigration issues. The immigration, the tariffs, the adjustments. How are we going to supplement people that are going to lose?
How are they? Where are you getting this immigration and the trade agreement? I don't understand where you're getting that. The immigration issue is one thing. The trade agreement is another. How are you tying these together, John?
Because it's tied in with the TSA element of the trade agreement, the trade service agreement, the TAA, which is a trade agreement adjustment. They're talking about the idea that people are going to be pushed out of jobs here. And so the government is going to supplement things. They're saying it's going to be okay to import labor in certain situations, certain circumstances, certain industries. That involves immigration. This is a backdoor. This is why Obama wants it. Obama wants the immigration aspect of it. The trade itself is just the red herring. It's just the thing that's being floated out there to get everybody on board. But this is all about...
I don't know that I totally agree with you there. And I do understand that there is a certain amount of immigration that has to come into the United States, and it's most generally for jobs that you and I don't want to do anyway. However, having said that, this trade agreement is something that is absolutely necessary for the continued well-being and health of the United States economy if it is done in an intelligent, integral way that it should be done. Now, that's the problem that I have. I don't really have a problem with the minor immigration portion of what I'm seeing here. I have a problem with the imbalance of the trade agreement itself.
Okay, yeah, and that's the point. You make a very good point there. It has to be done intelligently. There's the thing. There's a red flag right there. I want to read to you from, this is the article we pulled up today. Joe pulled this up just a few moments ago from the New American, and the writer of this article points to the 10 reasons why this is bad. I want to give you reason number 5. I'll give that to you, and then I'll let you comment on it. He says in it, it's an immigration Trojan horse. The Obama administration, infamous for promising to use all executive means possible, whether constitutional or not, to grant amnesty to illegals and to expand legal immigration, is using the TPP/TTIP to replace our immigration system with European-style mass migration. The still secret agreements contain provisions for exacerbating our border controls, according to insiders who have studied them. That means that somebody has been looking at this thing. The Trans-Pacific Partnership includes an entire chapter on immigration. He says it's a Trojan horse for Obama's immigration agenda. House members who are ready to defund the Department of Homeland Security to stop President Obama's executive action on immigration must not give him this power, which he will use to ensure his immigration actions are locked in when he leaves office.
So here's the thing. And let's just make an assumption that what you say is fact and that is perhaps going to be what they're negotiating. In the fast track authority that has been voted by these idiots in Washington, D.C., it's been actually approved by our own party, not his. And so basically what they have said is, yeah, he can go out to a fast track agreement. He can do the entire agreement, and we still, in the House and in the Senate, have the right to ratify or deny that entire agreement. And if the immigration portion of that is so helter-skelter, and if that is really one of the primary functions of this Obama free trade agreement, then we have 535 people in Washington, D.C. that still have the power. Some of them liked it, some of them didn't like it, to say no.
Okay, now take that thought, Bob, and run it down this idea. They've always had that power, and they haven't used it.
Well, here,
whose fault is that? Obama's fault?
Let me run this by you.
Yeah.
In the history no trade agreement has ever been stopped once fast track authority has been given, and the fast track authority in particular limits the way a trade agreement can be stopped. So,
well, Joe, you hit the nail on the head, and you're absolutely right. And I remember when the NAFTA deal went through.
No, you said that Congress is going to do this. Here's where you're wrong on this.
No. I said they reserved the right to do this. I didn't say they were going to do it. I have never said I have any confidence in the Congress.
Well, I have even less, because it's only two people. It's the chairman of the Budget Committee and the chairman of the Finance Committee in the Senate. That's it. Those are the two people that have control over this.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Are you saying that this does not go to the full House for a vote?
That's exactly correct.
I would have to research that. I just, you know what? Nothing surprises me out of Washington, D.C., but I am getting really, really surprised and disenchanted with the fact that it looks like the entire government of our elected officials have taken a position that the American people just don't count.
Well, you're absolutely right there. That's really why we're even examining this stuff, is because people need to understand. I don't care if you vote Republican, Democrat. I don't care if you vote Green Party or whatever you're voting. None of these people give a rat's patoot as to what you want. This isn't about what we want.
I can tell you, though, that if the United States is to survive economically, if the United States is not to enter into a bankruptcy the same way Greece is in right now, we have got to level out the level of trade and imports and exports with other countries. And the Pacific Rim is just one of them. It's just not just them. It's the entire world. And we sit here and we continue to accept an unbalanced measure of trade, and we're letting this happen to ourselves. When I say we, I don't mean you and me. I mean Congress.
Right. Well, I think it's a reflection. Congress is a reflection on the electorate. And whether it's through ignorance, whether it's through apathy, whether it's through misinformation or low information, whatever, it doesn't matter. We've got 47% of this country that just follows like blind sheep. And that's where the change needs to come from. We got to go on a break here. When we come back, we're going to continue.
No. There's no time to pay bills.
I'm sorry?
There's no time for you to pay bills.
It's our trade imbalance we have to take care of now.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Okay, we got to go to a break. When we come back, we will continue our discussion with Bob Cardoza from Robert Cardoza Live. And as promised, I'm doing something a little different this week. In place of Moments of Madness, I'm going to be playing you a parody, a song that I picked up back during the 2008 election. This is by a group called the Conservative Kooks, and the title of it is Obamacare. And just as you listen to the song, remember this was written back in 2008, and tell me if it doesn't ring true today. We'll be right back on the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Ladies and gentlemen, could you move it back? I'd like to introduce... You're going to this. I'd like to introduce the Conservative Kooks.
Yes, my story is sad but true. It's about a Canadian that I once knew. It's been 5 months, haven't seen her around since her visit to the clinic in town. Wait, in the waiting room, nurse will see you through till you're in your Wait, in the waiting room, nurse will see you through till you're in your Call
Okay, hey, we're back right here on the Conservative Syndicate. I hope you enjoyed that. A little joyful piece there, just making things a little lighter. What did you think of that, Joe?
I'm just awaiting.
Huh?
I'm awaiting. Wait.
Oh, yeah. Well, to really appreciate these songs that these guys wrote, you have to see the video. If you go out into YouTube and just look up The Conservative Kooks, the videos that they did, I mean, these are some really good guys, really, I mean, artistic in what they do and how they put their stuff together. It's some pretty good stuff. The video makes it just completely, you know, the things that they're acting things out while they're singing. It's just really funny. But anyway, that's the Conservatives Kooks, and you can find them out on YouTube if you want to be entertained about the Obama administration. These are two gentlemen that voted for Obama and realized once they did that they screwed up, and so they took it upon themselves to make everybody aware of it. Okay, we're back here with Bob Cardoza from Robert Cardoza Live, talking about this trade agreement. And during the break, or before the break, we were talking about it from the immigration aspect. I'd like to, if we can, Bob, let's talk about it from the economic perspective. You've done such a bang-up job here of explaining to us how the economy works, starting out with a bartering system. We're now into what I would refer to as international redistribution system in terms of how our trade operates. We've become so dependent on international trade. I wanted to ask you, what do you think? Do you think we'd be better off had we not gone this route and got so involved with international trade?
Well, we had to get involved with international trade. That's how you stay healthy in the world. But before we do that, I'm having a problem, and hopefully you can send it to me, the link to the trade agreement, because everything I'm looking at, I keep looking, and it says that the agreement is still closed to the public, and that the text agreement still remains classified. So where are you getting a copy of this to read?
Well, the TPA agreement was published in the congressional records. This is the problem: is we're not sitting here talking about the big picture here. We're talking about elements of it. We got the Trans-Pacific Partnership itself, as I said, hasn't been written. The Trans-Pacific Agreement has been published. The TAA aspect of it has been talked about. There's been some revelation on it, but as far as I know at this point, I'm looking in my links here. I'm actually, because I got a copy of it. I pulled it up last week because of the same thing.
Well, that's okay, because Joe just sent me the link, and I'll look at it later. I don't want to waste time on the show to actually look at that when you want me to be talking. But basically, I have been unable to find anything that I could look at to really review, and that's why every week when you and I talk, I continue to say nobody knows what the heck is in this thing. I'm sorry, Joe?
That's by design.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the part that incenses me. A trade agreement is not something that needs to be classified. A trade agreement is not something that has to be top secret. It's not like we're killing people here, or maybe we are. I don't know. This trade agreement, the only reason that the Senate is approving this thing is because all the big guys that want it are paying the senators to make sure that they get it. It's lobbyists that are putting this thing through.
That's funny you say that. It's really funny you say that, Robert, because between January and March of this year, there was a total of $1.1 million given, an average of $17,600 some dollars was donated to these folks that voted for this. And the average Republican received $19,600 from it, and the average Democrat just shy of $10,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of lunches, Joe.
Well, that's how you get stuff passed. You just pay for it.
Well, I'll tell you this: if we do not get a viable trade agreement, what's going to happen is that the United States dollar is going to be devalued substantially, because what's going to wind up happening is that foreign countries and foreigners and and our own citizens are going to discontinue buying federal bonds, which is the investment in the United States that is the basis of the value of the currency today. So, what winds up happening is the value of our currency today is based on purchasing those bonds with the same doggone currency that we're trying to shore up. So, if we got worthless currency to start with and we buy bonds with it and that's supporting their currency, what do you think is going to happen to us?
Okay, somebody say something.
I mean, so if we don't have a trade agreement, something that creates value here in the United States, something that increases exports. I'm more interested in exports than I am imports. We got enough imports. We need exports. We need our own manufacturing and everything going on. We need to stop becoming a service society, and we need to have something that is actually exported that brings value and dollars back in so that people start reinvesting in the United States through these federal bonds and to shore up the value of the dollar, which raises that value. Otherwise, what's going to wind up happening, as sure as you're sitting in your studio, John and Joe, is that China is going to wind up being the barometer for currency around the world, and they're just simply going to buy all of the meaningful things worldwide.
Well, I'm looking right now at an article, a very short article that was published today by Jeff Poor, and he points this out. There was an interview with Fox News, I guess, over the weekend with Mitch McConnell, and he was pressed. Bert Baer was talking to him and was pressing him on why there is so much of a secretive nature in the Trade Promotion Authority package. He's talking about the TPA passage, which is the bill that was passed by the Senate today, handed over to Obama. And there is a lot of secretive, it has been published out there, but there's a lot of secret stuff about it, like how is it going down, how is it being debated, and everything else. McConnell evaded the question, and all he said was the Trade Promotion Authority is a process to deal with it. The trade agreement itself will be completely transparent, and we'll have a chance to vote on it or approve it. And he turns around and says, I don't buy that this isn't good because the agreement hasn't been finalized. He says, what we've been voting on is a procedure that allows it to be dealt with once it's completed. Now, why is that part of it have to be secretive? I mean, why can't we know how they're dealing with, how they're going to set up, how it's going to run?
Yeah, I mean, that makes all the sense in the world, because you're talking about a guy that reminds me of a turtle anyway, and then, of course, Boehner reminds me of a cockroach, so I'm not sure that either one of them guys I want in my house.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. I certainly don't want them in the House of Representatives either. They just,
all
they do is dirty up the bathroom.
John, you're absolutely right. There is, if what they're talking about are the negotiated basis for negotiation of how we're going to arrive at an agreement, why can't we know what the playing field is? Why can't we know what the playing rules are? Why can't we know what's on the table before they negotiate anything? I understand that they can't tell us what's in a deal that hasn't been done yet, but I don't understand why they can't tell us what's really on the table.
Well, obviously because they know that it's just like Obamacare. If we really knew what it was, there'd be an uproar, and they wouldn't be able to pull it off. As I said, their agenda, their ideological agendas are very much the same in terms of what they see this bill could do, or what this agreement can do, or what this partnership can do. But it's what they expect out of it in terms of power, which is empowering both of them to work together. This is like I call this like mafia. This is mafia tactics.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And the members of the mafia are the Senate and the House of Representatives and the White House. It looks like they're all together. It wasn't that long ago, Joe or John, that you and I were talking about a conspiracy. Things didn't feel right. Things didn't look right. And I, just off the cuff, said, you know what? I am not so sure, John, that this isn't a conspiracy between the White House and the House of Representatives and the Senate to take control of our country and let the people wind up being subservient to everything else.
Well, it certainly seems like, if we use the syndicate or the mafia model, is that you've got the Don, you've got the head of the families, and he's basically dictating policy, and then the lieutenants are out there making sure that everything comes down, and then you got people like Boehner. Hey, you're not going along with me. You're not in line with what's going on here. Hey, let me go and break your arm. I'll take away your position on the committee, or we'll take away your funding. The only thing you did, it's like going up and hey, let's put a bullet in their head. Don't worry, it's not personal, it's business. That kind of thing. That's what I'm seeing on this. This is like a mass syndication now. It's not a government; it's a syndication. It's a syndicate.
Well, I find it interesting that somebody out there hasn't decided to create a group to organize the citizens against what's going on in Washington, D.C. Have we not had a dysfunctional government for long enough?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to if we had a starting point. That's the advantage of knowing what's going on compared to not knowing what's going on, is that we can talk about the need to do something, but if you don't have a direction to go, who really is the enemy? I mean, I feel like I'm back in Vietnam. Who's the enemy here? I don't know. They all look alike. That's really where it's at. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion here with Bob Cardoza from Robert Cardoza Live. Stay with us right here in the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoza. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoza Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardozalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardozalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. Since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish and get the best deal in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call Go Dish to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. Less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
You're listening to the Shake and Wake Radio Network, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will make you free. ShakeandWakeRadio.com.
Okay, hey, we're back right here on the Conservative Syndicate. Again, I want to remind everybody you can visit our website at theconservativesyndicate.net, and you can pick up this show or any of our shows. Listen to them again if you missed parts of them. Listen to them again if you want to vet us. Do some your own research. Look at, listen to what we're saying. Share it with somebody. Share it with somebody out there that's more ignorant than you are. And there's a lot of them running around these days. It's not it's not hard to find anybody. So go to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. I've got Bob Cardoza from Robert Cardoza Live with us. And what I wanted to do here, Bob, because you have such a thorough knowledge of how the economy has evolved into what we're looking at today. And I've been paraphrasing it to people that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the idea that we've gone from as you taught us here a couple of weeks ago, bartering to now what I call an international redistribution process. So we're moving closer towards some type of world economy type thing. And I don't know. I don't want to call it New World Order or anything. I don't know. But it seems like we're certainly headed that direction, especially with something like this trade partnership agreement that they're working on right now. And so I went out and did a little research of my own this morning. And it was interesting because one of the things I've been painting this as is, from Obama's perspective, is this is Keynesian economics on a global scale. The idea that we're going to do what we can to do to trade internationally. We're going to do what we can do to offset losses to American jobs and wages and things like that. And it's going to require subsidies. It's going to require taxpayer dollars and everything. I want to read to you just a quip here that I got in an article I pulled up. And it says that in the beginning, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 of the Constitution grants Congress the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. In 1934, this is right after Roosevelt was elected, Congress passed and FDR signed the Reciprocal Trade Agreement Act, RTAA, granting the president fast-track authority. Signed into law on June 12, 1934, it was a fundamental shift in U.S. trade policy. The Constitution gives Congress the right to regulate foreign commerce and establish tariff rates. Under the RTAA, Congress granted the president the right on a temporary basis, subject to renewal after 3 years. So they agreed on this, and as we know, this is during the Depression. And so what they're saying is that Congress didn't know what to do to fix it. So let's hand it over to the president and let's see if he can fix it. And so Roosevelt began to initiate the Keynesian economic policies of the New Deal. Now, it goes on to say that they renewed this agreement every 3 years until 1962. And then it was replaced by the Trade Expansion Act. And under that, they gave him 5 years. They started giving the president 5 years. And that went on until 1967. Then they went on another 7 years until the Trade Act in 1974. And it's 1974, it hasn't really even been renewed since then. So now, I guess NAFTA would have overrode that, or given the president even more power at that point, the Clinton administration. Now, it looks like since the days of Roosevelt, Congress hasn't wanted to deal with international trade. And that's something that I hadn't even thought of.
Well, the problem, Joe, is, Keynesian economics is not a bad thing. The bad thing is that when they originated this with Roosevelt, and they've done the same thing with Clinton, and they did the same thing with Obama, and they have empowered them for this fast track. The fast track was really for them to negotiate a trade agreement, not a treaty. The president's got the right to negotiate treaties, but this has given him the exclusive right to go to a fast track to negotiate a trade agreement that still should be ratified by the Congress. The problem is that by giving any president this power, they turn a Keynesian economics into command economics, so that it's no longer a supply and demand situation for the economic welfare of any country. It becomes a government-controlled economics where it's artificially controlled, and you can never, ever, ever in an economy like the United States survive that.
So let me stop you there. I want you to explain to me why Keynesian economics is good.
Well, because Keynesian economics is based on fair trade. It's based on supply and demand, and it just means everybody has to fight at the same level. It's supply and demand means that if you're willing to pay this for the product, then that's what the value is going to be. If you're willing to sell this for the product, that's what the value is going to be. If there's not much product available, the price goes up. What I don't like is the idea that a president can go in there and negotiate a price on wheat or whatever it might be, anything that dramatically affects our economy, and that price then is subsidized by the government, which means that is going to take place with taxpayer dollars, which creates a deficit of dollars in Washington, D.C.
Well, isn't that what Roosevelt did with this idea of Keynesian economics? Is that the government is the source of capital?
Well, that's the problem. Keynesian economics is really not. It really isn't. It ties right in with supply and demand economics, and it's not a bad thing. The bad thing is when the government gets involved in Keynesian and supply and demand, then become a product of command economics. And when you get into command economics, it's when the government is controlling the economic health of a nation. Very much like the way our government and other governments were dealing with coming out of their recession. They created a false economic environment where they did a lot of things with the bankruptcy laws. They did a lot of things with the interest rates. They were giving banks at zero interest and letting the banks make 3% on that money, and then letting the banks take the money that they did loan out and get 3 times that in new money at zero interest. That's a command economy. The government is effectually doing that. So when you see that the economy is improving, it's not improving. The government is using the dollars that have been laid aside, taxpayer dollars, and they're subsidizing that kind of garbage. And we no longer have the healthy environment and economic situation that we normally would have under supply and demand.
Okay, so you're telling me this. See, this is an education for me, because I've always learned Keynesian economics within the strain of socialist ideology. That Roosevelt used this as to justify the government injecting taxpayer dollars in order to grow the economy. And that's what our president has grabbed a hold of. This whole idea that it's the government that creates jobs. It's the government that creates labor. It's the government that creates commerce.
And that's what they refer to as a command economy. That's the government. They're making the. You know what? It's socialism at its best.
Yeah, and as who was
I shouldn't say best. I should say it's socialism at its worst.
Yeah. Well,
I've heard you use the phrase, it's a redistribution of wealth, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
When the government gets involved in the economy, and it should not do that, while I understand they should lead us in the right direction, the last thing they should have done was to say that no business was going to be too big to fail, and then let 5 banks take over the entire banking of the United States, and each one of them on their own are too big to fail, and if they do fail, guess what's going to happen again?
Yeah.
They're not going to let them fail. You and I are going to pay for that.
Again. All right, we're out of time, Bob. I want to give you a moment here to plug your stuff, because I know you're finally into your syndication process, which I'm really happy to hear. But let people know what's going on.
Well, Robert Cardoza Live airs on, I should have the paper in front of me, but it airs on, the best way right now is Spreaker. We've got the best sound quality, the best thing going on. We're on a lot of different networks, and we're on Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific time. Go to my website. It's the easiest way to find out what we're doing and to connect to us. We talk about everything: politics, money, taxes. I love to crucify the IRS. I do that on a daily basis, and because they've crucified me for 70 years. Why not give a little bit of it back to them? And then on Thursdays, if you enjoyed today's conversation, then tune into my show tomorrow, and John will be on my show tomorrow. We'll continue this.
Yeah, I'll be on Bob's show, I believe, at 5 o'clock tomorrow Pacific time, and we reverse positions here. He gets to slam me or throw stuff at me, and I have to deal with it. So that's a lot of fun. Okay, thanks so much, my friend, and I'll be talking to you later.
Good night, Joe.
All right, good night. Okay, guys, we're done. We're done for tonight. We're done for the week. We'll be back next week. Right here on the Conservative Syndicate. You can find us at theconservativesyndicate.net. We'll be on the air at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, and every zone in between and around the world. So have a good weekend, guys, and just remember, this ain't over. This ain't over. These guys can keep knocking us down, but I do believe something I heard from Rick Perry a few weeks ago, and that is we're resilient. We can make it through this. We made it through Jimmy Carter. We can make it through Barack Obama. So until then, have a good weekend, guys, and stay out of the sun. It's hot out there. Stay out of the sun. God bless you. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning
tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.